Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Every once in a while, I like to spotlight up and coming groups with a lot of talent. And today, I'd like to showcase a new group called Roseneath. I'm going to start that over again because I didn't ask you how to pronounce the band name.
Roseneath.
Roseneath. Okay. All right.
Yep.
So I'll just edit that part out. All right, here we go. I'm going to do it again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Every once in a while, I like to spotlight up and coming groups with a lot of talent. And today, I'd like to showcase a new group called Roseneath from Richmond, Virginia, taking influence from 90s alternative classics as well as modern grunge, post hardcore, and shoegaze bands. Richmond, Virginia's Roseneath combines driving riffs with soaring melodies to create something new with a familiar nostalgia. The music is for fans of bands like Quicksand, Nirvana, Balance and Composure, Failure, Modern Color, Narrowhead, and Smashing Pumpkins. The duo is made up of Brian George on guitar and bass, together with Jason Roberts commanding vocals and production. Whatever they might lack in official members, they more than make up for with expertly crafted tunes. Out of the gate, the band absolutely smoked their debut release, Shine, receiving rave reviews. Nowhere Safe is the group's brand new album, available to pre-order now and officially released on June 16th. Roseneath have a magical way of leveraging their influences to come up with catchy and well-written songs. Says everything is noise. I'm somewhat baffled as to how bandmates Jason Roberts and Brian George are capable of such a rich and all-encompassing sound all by their lonesome, but their considerable gifts make it altogether unsurprising. And that's a comment from No Echo. Please welcome Brian George of the sensational new alternative rock group Roseneath to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, Brian.
Hello.
I just want to say Jason was supposed to be on the call as well. Our thoughts and prayers are with Jason and his wife today as she is feeling ill and Jason is watching over her. Jason was telling me in an email that this band became kind of a hobby thing. And what happened? It's not a hobby anymore, is it?
What happened? Well, what happened was Jason and his family came Christmas caroling to my house. And I heard the most beautiful voice I had ever heard in my life. This cutting, clear tenor. I chased him around the neighborhood, actually, playing in my demos and trying to let him know, you're singing for my band. Like, this is happening. I think he thought I was weird and a little bit scary. And I think he wanted me away from his family. So he took my business card and that was that. Turns out he thought it was funny that I had a MySpace address on my business card, got in touch with me. I guess the rest is history. So yeah, we've put out an EP so far. That was the Shine EP. We just did Nowhere Safe. Gosh, I think we probably recorded that thing in no more than 6 months. So we've just been kind of churning them out. I've got probably another album worth of material on the hopper too, going a little bit different direction with it. But yeah, good progress so far.
So you guys never knew each other before that handing over to the business card thing. Oh, that
Nope.
wow. That's pretty cool. That's a good story. What did you do prior to meeting him? Were you in bands or
Yeah. So I've been at it for a while. I was doing back in Michigan a band called Cosmonaut.
okay?
Um, and that one, I had been a drummer before, probably for the previous, 10, 15 years. I always played drums in my bands and I was just sick of it. I wanted to write. I didn't want to be a good drummer. Just wanted to create something. So that band, I switched instruments with my buddy, and I was on guitar. Started off as a project with a guy, Brent Oberlin, from a band called Thought Industry. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they were a decent band on Metal Blade
Mm-hmm.
at the time. And we kind of did that as a one-off project, and then I took over vocals also. So I was the singer and guitarist and primary songwriter for Cosmonaut for probably a good, I don't know, 5 years or so. And then I started moving all over the place for work.
Mm-hmm.
Moved from Michigan to California. I moved from California to New Jersey, and New Jersey down to Richmond. So you can imagine I wasn't really, you know, starting anything very serious with these short stays in different places. But we came to Richmond, wanted to call it home, and kind of carry a little piece of who I was, you know, before I started moving all over the place for work. Um, it's kind of more of a family focused thing,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
and at the end of the day, you can't let it all go,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I miss my friends, I miss my old, at my family, at everything that I had going, where I was from. But I guess I wasn't ready to walk away from the music thing completely.
Right.
It's just a way to kind of, bring a piece of my old life with me.
What kind of job makes you travel all over the country?
I work in pharmaceutical,
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
and I'm currently at a nonprofit here that's
Huh.
trying to do good things in the world. So,
Yeah, excellent. My wife's a nurse. She's been a nurse now for, God, 40 years or so. So, yeah, she's in the medical industry, and we've got lots of nurses in the family, as a matter of fact.
yep,
Yeah.
good work.
The band is kind of a mystery at this point because you don't have pictures. There's not a lot of PR, but people are catching on to the band very quickly. And you do have fans. They love your music, you know, very reminiscent of the grunge period, the 90s, which I always said it was the last time we ever had rock and roll commercialized. After that, you got Taylor Swift's and all that crap. That was the
Don't
end of.
don't be talking bad about Tay Tay.
Oh my God! I hope you're not one of those Swifties.
But let me tell you, I love pop. I have been listening to almost exclusively pop for probably the last 5, 7 years, something like that. But no, I agree. Like, the last great era of rock
Yeah,
was the alternative
right.
era. That's what I grew up on. That's what I love. And so at the end of the day, you know, what do I want to write? I want to write a great song.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Stylistically, I guess where it's coming from, yeah, of course, there's the alt rock thing, but you'll hear some keyboards in there too.
Well, that's fine.
Because
That's fine.
I just can't get away from, some of the electronic kind of stuff that I love too, like, say, Depeche Mode or early Tears
Right.
for Fears and things like that. So, you know, when you hear and it's like it's alternative, it's sounding kind of grungy, and then all of a sudden we bust into something that sounds like The Cure
Mm-hmm.
or Tears for Fears or something like that. It's like
Yeah.
that's where it's coming from, is kind of my love of you know, you'll hear some post punk, you'll hear some electro pop in there and things like that. So a little bit of a mishmash of styles. And I mean, just to go back on, like, whether or not the band is known, the thing I'm known for is secret bands.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Really.
I I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I do it for me. Like I said, I just want to write a great song. I just want to create something good.
Mm-hmm.
And I make it and I walk away from it. So it's probably a good thing to have somebody like Jason around that's a little bit more. I mean, yeah, we're both interested in people hearing it. I would like people to hear it. I'm just not going to do anything about it. I'm going to focus my efforts on creating
Okay.
because that's what I like to do.
Yeah, but how
So
far
Jason's a little bit more involved on the PR side, I guess.
how far would you like to take the band? You know what I mean? I mean, is this something if you know it strikes big? Are you going to carry on with it, or are you going to say, nah?
You know, for me, it's always about the thing, and if there were a reason to, I would dedicate my life to it
Okay.
because it's the most important thing to me,
Mm-hmm.
other than
Right.
my family and my friends and the people that I care about. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, I realize that I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth. Right? Like, oh, it's just about creating, and that's what I enjoy, and I don't really care to do anything with it after that. It's not because I'm disinterested in it, and bringing it to people and having them enjoy it. It's you know just not something I'm going to put time into.
Right.
But yeah, definitely, you know, and if we get to the point where I feel like we've created something that, you know, this is the best thing going,
Mm-hmm.
I guess I have a little bit of trust that
Right.
people are they're going to hear it,
Sure.
and that it'll make the rounds. So that's why, like, well, my focus is on creating the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Right.
it's inescapable, you hear it like, oh my God. I mean, I don't know exactly where you're coming from, from a taste standpoint, but I'll just tell you, like, for me, for people in
Mm-hmm.
my generation, we all remember the first time we heard "Smells Like Teen Spirit,"
Right.
and you're like, "Oh my God, this is it!"
Yeah.
Right? They couldn't have kept that a secret if they tried.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I just think it's would I do it as a job? Sure, absolutely, be amazing. But that's only possible if you create the thing that
Right.
everybody's got to hear.
Sure. I want to mention the band name, Roseneath, came from a cross street.
Roseneath,
Roseneath.
Roseneath. Yep, it's the
You
name of
know,
a street in Richmond.
exactly. And that
Yeah.
was that Jason's home or your home?
So Jason Jason doesn't live on Roseneath. I think it was just it had some meaning to him
Mm-hmm.
because he's moved around a fair amount as well. I think he came here from Texas,
Right.
and he's here, in his new home with his new family. He's got a couple young kids, and he was walking around. I think he said he was walking his dog at the time, and he just, he's thinking about his life and everything that's going on, and probably feeling a little bit lucky, right? Maybe feeling a little bit sentimental. Looks
Sure.
up at the street sign, and I guess it just stuck with him. Um, Funny thing, it's also the street that my favorite brewery is on. if you look, if you look at my guitar case, it is absolutely plastered with stickers from this brewery. And so, I was telling them the other day, actually, I'm like, you know, my guitar case is plastered with these stickers. My band name is Roseneath, which is as they know, it's the street that their brewery is on. I'm like, I'm probably coming across as the creepiest super fan
Very
of this
strange.
brewery right now, but that's not where it came from. That's not why.
Because Roseneath also isn't that a place in Scotland? I think it's a place
Oh,
in
maybe we're the ones that are saying it wrong.
yeah. There's a place in Scotland, I think, as well.
Hmm,
I want to talk
that
about
is good to know.
the new
I'll have to
album.
find someone Scottish.
Yeah,
Ask
that'd be
them.
cool. I'd like to hear that pronunciation. With a Scottish accent. Uh, the album's going to be officially released on June 16th. Nowhere's Safe. Why the title? Is there some significance or meaning behind some of the songs on this album, or
Yeah. I mean, I didn't write the lyrics, so I can't really speak to that too much, but I guess I've heard the songs enough times that I get it, right?
okay?
It's just sort of a feeling in the world, or that at least a lot of people have, that things are going a little bit sideways,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and I think a lot of it has to do with kind of the 24-hour news cycle. Like, you pick up your phone and you can just see everything horrible that's going on in the world right now. Um, I'm not sure that things are actually getting worse, but a lot of times it feels like it, especially with the current political climate. And, I think that he was just feeling a little bit of a sense of, just being a little bit overwhelmed, seeing a lot of upsetting things,
Hmm.
seeing a lot of things where, in this country, it doesn't seem like it's going in the right direction.
Right.
Just really wanted to capture that, you know, lyrically, as far as the artwork goes on the album. And
Oh, that the artwork is
maybe
great.
a lot of the songs, I'm writing them, I'm sending them to him, and
Hmm.
I don't want to write lyrics. Like, I mean, I told you I used to be the singer in my band. I can do
Right.
it. I don't have a voice like that guy, but that's not even the biggest problem. The problem for me is that, like, when I write the music, for the most part, that's what I have to say. Like,
Hmm.
my statement has been made. So
Okay.
I send it to him, and what I get back, it's incredible. Like, I feel extremely lucky,
Hmm.
to have a guy who sounds like that and can write like that. And I remember asking him one time too. I was like, "Do you like writing lyrics?" Because I sure don't. It's like work, or like a homework assignment or
Right.
something, and it's like a necessary evil, right? It's like, yeah, I think I do. I guess what I'm taking on the scenic route, but my point there is that, like, there's probably something in the music too
Hmm.
that he's hearing in it,
Hmm.
that sort of brings that out of him, right? Like, the wanting to express
Right.
those feelings. So maybe I need to write something a little bit happier.
Well, I don't know. I'd like it.
Yeah, I tend to like it
Yeah.
dark or sad. I was telling my wife the other day, I was like, when I write something and people hear it, I pretty much want them to either rage or cry,
Yep.
and maybe both.
Yeah.
But that's generally my thing.
You know, you play a great guitar. You play guitar and bass on this?
Yeah, so kind of in order of skill, I would say it goes drums, guitar, bass, vocals, keys. So, like, you get out of it what you put into it, right?
Sure.
And but I always had kind of a knack for drumming, probably because I started just very, very young.
Hmm.
Um, I talked to a lot of people about this over the years. Like, you start something later in life, and I think that since your brain is not really developing in the same way, maybe you just don't pick it up in quite the same way. Like, it doesn't become a part of you as quickly, and also, like, you don't necessarily have the time,
Hmm.
right? Like, think about even friendships. Like, you've got all the time in the world when you're a kid to sit around and hang out with your friends and form these really deep bonds. And the same goes with an instrument too. You start when you're young and you have all the time in the world to sit in your parents' basement and, bang on
Yep.
the drums or play a
Right.
guitar or whatever. And so, you know, the later in life you pick something up, there's a couple things working against you there. So,
Yeah, like
I mean,
kids.
yeah, so I started on drums, but just lost my interest after a while. I'm more interested in melody. I'm more interested in
Right.
songs and in creating. And so that's when I switched over to guitar. But I can kind of do it all just with varying degrees of skill.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't even really matter, right? Because that's not even the way I write. Like I'll sit around and strum a guitar, but the best stuff just comes to me in my head, and it doesn't matter what instrument I'm holding or if I'm holding an instrument at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Most of the things, especially the stuff I've written lately, I think of it, and if you heard my voice memos in my phone, you would laugh out loud, like because that's me going, or whatever I have to do to remind myself about how
Right.
it goes, and then I put it down with whatever it needs to be. And before, what I was hearing, obviously, I mean, you hear it, right? You heard the album. It's a lot of guitars, like a
Yeah.
wall of guitars type of thing, alt rock,
Sure.
buzzed out sometimes, with some smatterings of keys. And now what I'm hearing in my head is almost entirely electronic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't go and pick up a guitar because there is no guitar. I mean, maybe for the purpose of the voice memo, right?
Right.
To put it down. But at the end of the day, you know, I hear it and I record it and make it be what it needs to be. Like I put down the thing that's in my head.
Yeah. I just want to clarify. You're playing all the instruments on the album? That's all you? The drums and everything?
So yeah, yes and no. There are, like, generally whoever writes it records it.
Right.
And so I want to say on the new one, this isn't Jason's only project.
Okay.
Like, to be clear, I mean, this is really my only artistic outlet, but he
Mm-hmm.
has his solo project called Breaths.
Okay.
And he's got a couple other things going as well. So he doesn't exactly have the time to sit around and write as many songs for this project because he is extremely prolific,
Mm-hmm.
but he's also spreading it across multiple things. So I want to say on this new one, probably 7 or 8 of the songs I wrote and I played everything on. And then there's a couple that he wrote and he played
Mm-hmm.
almost everything on.
Oh, okay.
And so yeah, Numb for sure. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's one other that, and you'll hear it in the guitar too. He's got a very different tone from mine. So when you hear
Mm-hmm.
Numb and This Alone, that's the other one that's a Jason song that's coming to mind. And his guitar tone is much more kind of wall of sound. It's wider, it's clearer
Yeah.
than mine, where mine's a little bit more of kind of that. I mean, I mix it up, right? I've got a few different tools in my
Mm-hmm.
toolbox,
Right.
but a little bit more in kind of that brown sound type territory,
Sure.
Marshall, Vox, that type of thing. His sound is a little bit more kind of modern, I
Mm-hmm.
would say.
Well, I'm going to break down the album and talk about the album. First of all, what I said about the album is Roseneath has a mesmerizing and take hold effect on the listener. And it does. For some reason, it just draws you to the music. It's kind of mesmerizing. A very talented modern day era alt rock band with many surprising hints of the past. I thought it was a great album. I really enjoyed it. Uh, I want to talk about a couple of tracks on there. First of all, you start out with Noisy, kind of a punkish grunge type of maybe that's a new genre, a punkish grunge. Sounds pretty good anyway. So you come right out of the gate with this really cool, fast-paced tune, which is great.
Kick the door down, right?
You have to, hey, you got to catch their attention, you know. Burn to Black, that was very Nirvana, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, like thank you for saying that. You know, as much as I say, oh, it's about the thing, and I don't really care. Like when I hear that people do enjoy it, like it's really, I don't even know how to put it. It's like very satisfying for me, right? Because you know, I'm creating something that I want to hear, and
Right.
I probably wouldn't do it if I was hearing everything that I wanted to hear, you know, out in the world. But what it makes me think when somebody says, you know, I really liked it, or you know, they describe it back to me, and
Mm-hmm.
they're saying the same bands that I think of, or the same thing that I think it sounds like. It's like, oh, I connected with them on some level. That's really, you know, it's just really satisfying for me, and it makes me feel like I'm accomplishing what I set out to do,
Right.
right? Because I didn't write a song because I wanted to write a crappy song, and I didn't write something that sounded like, you know, Nirvana or Hum or Super Heaven or Tears for Fears,
Mm-hmm.
like whatever, The Cure, like whatever the thing that it sounds like. It's not because I ripped it off. It's because like I love that music
Yeah.
and I listened to it and it became a part of me. And then when I, you know, thought about something that I wanted to hear, you know, like it just came out that way.
Sure.
So,
Every song
yeah, as
sounds
far
like,
as
every song sounds like somebody else. You can't help it, you know?
yeah, how could it not? You know, it's almost like you're a computer, right? Like you take in all the stuff, like you
Right.
consume
Sure.
everything that you know. Obviously, you choose it, right? Because you like it, you wanted to hear it, and then you're like, oh well, here's my comment back to the world. Like this is what I have to say, and yeah, I would feel like I wasn't accomplishing what I set out to do if it didn't sound like the things that I love, because
Right.
that's,
Sure.
you know, I take it all in and then I spit something back. And yeah, of course it sounds like bands that I love, because, you know, I can do what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, noisy, clear Nirvana influence, you know, that I've actually written a couple songs like that in the past. It sounds a lot to me like a couple cosmonaut songs
Hmm.
that I've written. And on one hand, it's like, well, as I was writing it, I remember I was drunk and I was wandering around the house. This time it was kind of one of those like I'm strumming my guitar and things are coming out type of situations. But my wife's family were visiting, so I had the freedom to like wander the house and play
Hmm.
my guitar for a minute. And I remember just being hammered and talking about, you know, like everything everything that I'm playing right now is gold. And they're laughing at me because I'm just, you know, talking all this crap. But yeah, it came out pretty quick, you know, Nirvana, and then you know, it kind of breaks out into more of a, you know, the bridge and the outro are a lot more sort of almost symphonic. It's
Hmm.
like a very sort of like dark, it's lush. It sort of opens up from being this kind of like aggro, like alt punk song into being a little bit more of like a, you know, something you might hear out of The Cure.
Hmm.
Um, Burn to Black, I never really heard that as an alt rock type of thing, to be honest. I hear that one as being very post punk. Like to me, that one could have been something that The Cure wrote. The outro is very riffy, which is a little bit weird, but I'm glad that I convinced Jason to not scream there. Because the original version of that song, you know, it's like it's a very post-punk thing. It's
Yeah.
got an amazing chorus. I couldn't believe it when he threw that one back at me. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, this is
He is a
incredible.
good singer. He's a good
Oh
singer.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the riff at the end, it's very heavy.
Hmm.
So like how do you go from something that sounds like The Cure to something that I don't even know. I can't think of a band that riff sounds exactly like. Maybe
Mm,
what if Super Heaven was a little bit more
right.
busy and a lot more riffy. But yeah, the original version of that song, there's a scream at the end, sky burn to black. And I was like, I'm hearing this one. Actually, it's very strong. Like
Hmm.
I think the chorus is very good and it's a very strong song overall. And I want to use it as a single. Like it's actually going to be the third single that we release off the album. It's like I don't think I can do the scream here, and yeah, he just kind of ended up coming up with a little bit more of a soaring melody over that last little bit that I think is um a lot less likely to make people kind of turn their head and go like, oh,
Yeah.
am I still listening to the same song? Like,
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
this?
I'm glad there's not a lot of screaming because and I said this before, it's mesmerizing. There's a lot of bands in the 90s that I think they were rock, but they were mesmerizing, like Soundgarden, like Black Days. You just listen to it and it just takes you away, man. And it just, it gets in your head, and your band is a lot like that.
Yeah,
Nirvana was like that,
that's my main thing. I
you
mean,
know?
like I told you already, I love 90s alt rock. I
Yep.
love pop. Like I just love good songs,
Yeah.
Play me some Tom Petty. Like I don't care. Honestly, I
Right.
do not care. A good song is a good song.
Sure.
However, I do love me some screaming. I mean,
Hmm.
I've been a metal guy, and I still kind of am. Like to be honest, probably the album that grabbed me the most in, let's say, the last 5 years
Hmm.
is the latest album. I think maybe it came out like a year ago or less, from a band called Chat Pile, God's Country. And I mean, it's nasty. It sounds like the heaviest Jesus Lizard song you can imagine with like dead guy vocals over top of it. Um, so, I love it
Hmm.
if it's just heavy and nasty, but not for that song and not in that part. And not all the time too. Like, I've actually never been in a metal band necessarily. I've been in bands that sort of dabbled in it, but I feel like I can't be mad all the time. And it just doesn't really suit my mood often enough. Like I couldn't imagine being like, let's say a touring member of Pig Destroyer or
Yeah.
something like that. Like I couldn't do it night after night after night. I feel like that every once in a while, and then I sort of have it out and that's it. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe you'll find a blood curdling scream or two in our future, but it's probably never gonna be, let's say, a big part of it.
That's funny. Love the songs though. I mean, not lost. That was a great tune as well. Roll credits. This alone was a kind of a rocker. And out of all these songs, then you come up with you end it with a song called Spill, which was very different than the rest of the songs. Very different opening, slower. You slow down the pace, and it's a very catchy tune. Talk about Spill a little bit.
Yeah, so I guess there's a couple things that I want to say about that. One is that, when when I first started this thing, my main thing was I just want to mess around. Like I don't want to pick a style
Hmm.
and do the style. I
Right.
want to find out, because there's no label telling me
Right.
what I have to do, right? Like
Right.
we write the music, we record the music, a label puts it out,
Hmm.
and that's it.
Yep.
So like that gives me Jason the freedom to kind of follow um, our artistic interests
Sure.
at the time. And so if I'm interested in something and I want to create something that's a certain way, I can do it. And that's a way for us to find out who we are, right? Because we can. And you know, like think about this, right? What if we did the AC/DC thing?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is we're not AC/DC yet,
Right.
right? Like, I mean, well, then we did one thing and we got, you know, we created something that was the quality that it was, and these are the people that like it, right? Whereas if we explore a little bit more, we try this, we try that. Oh, we're really good at this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go there,
Right.
and so we have the freedom to explore, and we can, and that's what we're gonna do. That song is clearly a Depeche Mode song
Mm-hmm.
because I love Depeche Mode.
Mm-hmm.
And not to spoil the surprise, but you know, it's kind of a happy accident that it was the last song on the album
Right.
because that's actually where I'm going with it. Like I told you, I guess I already did spoil the surprise, but I told you that what I'm hearing right now is a lot more electronic and not really having much to do with real instruments or stringed instruments at all. And so it's kind of funny how we end up putting this sort of like epic Depeche Mode sounding type song at the end of the album. And then the next one that we come out, guaranteed, it's going to sound more like that
Mm-hmm.
because I've got, let's say 7, 8 songs that are basically done and ready for vocals that
Okay, good.
sound a lot more like that. And frankly, they have less guitars in it even than Spill. So the next Roseneath that you hear is going to be a very different Roseneath, and I'm not at all tempted to put it out under a different band name or anything like that because like I don't have to.
Yeah.
This is our project, and you know, we're doing with it what we want to do. And if the next thing that I want to do is go back to guitars or, pull out a mandolin or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, you know, that's that's what we'll do. But yeah, Spill at the end of the day, I mean, it came out of a subset of my influences. I think at the time I was listening to a lot of Never Let Me Down by Depeche Mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I could say, oh, I was just listening to a lot of Depeche Mode, but basically what I was doing was I was obsessively listening to that song over and over again. And so it's no surprise that what was my favorite song at the time, something's gonna come out that sounds exactly like that, just
Mm-hmm.
not as good.
I think what makes a great album is to be eclectic, like you say, and your next album, you want to try different things. I think that's very smart. You don't want every song to sound the same, and there's a lot of bands that do that.
Yeah, I mean, I would be willing. Let let's say that our artistic vision was completely fulfilled by
Mm-hmm.
doing one particular thing,
Right.
right? The songs are truly great songs, and the sound is truly who we are, like
Right.
at our core,
Right.
and people love it.
You don't want to
Um,
go away from that
I
either. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would be perfectly willing to just knuckle down and
Mm-hmm.
go all in on it, but I mean, let's be honest, like we're not there, and frankly, most bands never are.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are truly that, like you know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are from England.
Yeah.
Consider that, right? Like most of the great rock bands are from England. Like who is even the great rock band from America? But anyways, yeah, I'd be willing to do it, but it's not right for us. Not right now.
Right.
Now is the time to explore and find out.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, it's a great album. The only, if I had any, it's not a negative comment, just a suggestion. And there's probably a good reason for this. The songs are short, very, very short. Right? Do you want to expand on that on one of the albums and stretch them out a little bit more, or what do you think? You like them short,
So I do tend to love the 3.5 minute format.
like the
I
old
told you
days? Yeah,
I'm a
radio
pop
play.
guy.
Yeah.
Um, I'm perfectly willing to let the song be whatever it needs to be.
Okay.
And you know, the way that we're going about it now with the new one that we're working on. I mean, I've got a lot of songs in the bag. Our current album just came out, so there's plenty of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's I'm seeing it as more of an iterative process this time around, where I mean the previous two that we've done, right? Shine and Nowhere Safe. It was a little bit more like, okay, here's the song, music's done, put your vocals on it, let's go. Like let's get some stuff out and
Right.
see if people like this the way that we do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it was a rush job necessarily, but it was a little bit more like, I mean, it was like that. It was put it down, put the
Mm-hmm.
vocals on it, send it out into the
Yeah.
world. Off you go. Right. This one, I'm feeling a little bit more like, you know, here are some demos.
Mm-hmm.
Put your vocals to it. Let's
Right.
hear, let's hear if we've got something. And if it's a song, you know what? I, I think there's going to be a little bit more of a back and forth where, this time around, the vocals come in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now the vocals are here. Is there something that we can mute so that it's a little bit more, let's say, not quite as dense, and
Right.
everything can sound a little bit better and come through a little bit clearer? Um, do we need to add an intro over here? Do we need to lengthen this part? Are the tempos right? Like, do we have the right sounds, the right tones? I want to take my time with this one
Right.
and make it a little bit more of a back and forth to really try to realize the song
Mm-hmm.
into a real song, as opposed to, like, I mean, I feel like we're very lucky in a way, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just maybe it's experience, maybe it's luck, I don't know, but to have gone about it the way we did and not really have quite so much back and forth to try to make it into a real song and have it
Yep.
come out the way that it did. Like, on one hand, I feel like we're very lucky that
Yeah.
it turned out, and it's actually pretty good. But yeah, this time around, like, you get out of it what you put into it, right?
Sure.
And this one, I just want to take my time with it a little bit more and have a little bit more back and forth to make sure that the songs are fully realized.
I think you're lucky because you had this I don't care attitude, and you caught a lot of people's attention by right. There's no PR, I mean, if you had a good PR guy, you could really start running with this, But I don't know what, I don't know where you want to take this. I don't know how popular you want to become.
Well, I remember having a conversation with my bass player back in Cosmonaut, and he was just a really good guy and a smart guy. And he I remember him telling me, like, to really do it, to really launch a band, you need about $1 million. It's like, well,
Nah,
I mean,
I don't
I
agree with
get that, like,
that.
sorry, what's that?
I don't agree with that. No.
Well, things have changed since then. I mean, we probably had this conversation 10 years ago at least.
Right.
And obviously there's like, I mean, I've had the internet for a lot longer than that, but like you can be that good or that lucky, or just like really good at promoting your stuff online, which I'm not because I don't care. And there's like the whole SoundCloud thing. Like, I don't know, you can do it for less, but I don't know. I always come back to you get out of it what you put into it.
Right.
And I don't know that we're in a position to hire like a big money PR firm to do now if we record some new music and it sounds to me like oh my God, like
Yeah.
this is undeniable.
Right.
This is the truth. We are the next REM,
Hmm.
whoever. Um, then yeah, I think probably, there'd be a little bit of a snowball effect where people would be incentivized to kind of um, put a little bit more money, put a little bit more
Sure.
effort into promoting it because they thought they could get something out of it. But I mean that's why I say like my focus is still a little bit more on creating the thing, and if I do it and I hear it back and you know I'm like, oh my God, this is it, then
Yeah.
I think that other people would hear that too.
But I really do think you're lucky so far because, you don't even have pictures out there, man. There's no pictures of the
It,
band, just that
it
one.
there is a picture, and I actually have a bone to pick about this because you know, Jason and I, we actually don't see each other all that often. I mean, I like the guy. I would say we're buds, but like we live on opposite sides of town and we've got our jobs and our families and our lives and everything. So
Yeah.
there's actually no picture of us together. That picture was taken from a picture that he had taken and a picture that I had taken separately. And his picture, he is like standing in front of a backyard or something. I think he's standing in front of his house. And my picture, I'm standing in front of this really cool graffiti. What did this guy do? He stole my graffiti because because he had to cut up the pictures to put us together and make us look like we were at the same place at the same time, which like I said never happens. But somehow this sneaky guy took my graffiti and put it behind him and he put
Mm.
me in the backyard. What do you think about that? Would you take a picture with someone that did that to you?
That's it. That's the only promo pick I had. That's it.
And
You know.
if I could, honestly, I was thinking about asking for this before we put out Nowhere Safe.
Yeah.
If I could, I would have no pictures at all
Right.
because to me, there's nothing more boring than, you know, well, actually, I can think of a couple things that are boring, right? One, you go to a show and there's a guy on drums, a guy on guitar, a guy on bass, and a singer. Ugh, right? This is so typical, right? Another, a band standing there taking a picture, like in front of a brick wall or something. Like, I just don't want it. I don't want a picture of us because I don't even think that that's what's interesting. Like this, I mean, it sounds kind of silly to say because I don't really feel like I'm an artist, right? I have more of an engineer
Right.
personality, but this is art, and the art is what you hear, like it's audio. And I don't really think that a picture of us standing there is interesting. Like I would rather have people look at something that makes them think, that evokes some type of an emotion
Well, it
that's
could be a
similar
create.
to
Yeah, but it could be
to what
a creative photo of you guys, not just standing there. It could be something crazy, man. And that's what gets people's attention.
So actually, I'll give you my only idea. I'll give you
Right,
my only idea for a
right.
creative band photo, and it's right out here. Do you see these vines that are
Yeah,
hanging from the trees?
yeah,
Now, my threat, if Jason ever makes me take a picture
right.
of a band photo, I will insist on hanging from shirt off like Tarzan.
That's cool. That's all right.
Yeah, no, but if and Jason's wife is an artist,
Right.
so that's more interesting to me. Like I like the way gorillas do it,
Mm-hmm.
where it's the idea is more like there's the animation and there's the music
Yeah.
and they go together, and
Yeah.
the animated characters are like supposedly the people that are making the music, and that gives them in a way artistic license to be very sort of cartoonish and over the top with their music.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that I am trying to bite it off, but I'm just giving an example of something that I think is way
Right.
more interesting than a bunch of D-bags standing in front of a brick wall.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I'm a PR guy. I was a top 40 DJ. So you're talking about pop. I was there. I was a top 40 guy back in the late 70s. Okay. I was playing the Cars and Donna Summer and
Of the
Blondie.
Cars.
I was playing New Wave. I was playing everything back in the day. But if you want to take it to the next step, you need music videos on you. It could be on YouTube. It could be very creative. Doesn't have to be. It could be what you want. You know, you got to get some pictures. Not off a brick wall. You got to be creative. Be artistic. Be something that you enjoy. But I
Yeah, I
don't know
mean,
how far you want to take the band. I could take you guys pretty far.
not to make excuses or anything, because like I agree with what you're saying. I just acknowledge the reality that my my artistic vision is for music,
Yeah, yeah.
and I would be happy. Like I wish I was funny, right? Like I'm not saying that I can't. I mean, I'm not saying that I can't tell a joke or something, but like, I watch videos from like OK Go or something, and
Mm-hmm.
and they're hilarious, right? Like they thought of something, it's hysterical. They made a great video, and it adds a lot to the music and brings in a lot of views that like
Mm-hmm.
people that probably would have never even heard that song. They're watching it because they're like they've worked out a routine on some treadmills, right? But someone would have to tell me what to do because like I'm spending my time where I'm effective,
Right.
right? And that's in creating the music. And it would be awesome to have like, cool art that suited the music and evoked an emotion in people that was similar to what we're going for with the music, and to have, some videos that
Yeah,
really brought it all together. But like,
sure.
I'm spending my time where I'm valuable creating the stuff, and I would love someone to tell me
Right.
what to do with all of the other
That's
stuff.
simple.
Because I'm a good soldier, like I don't.
There's a lot of guys that have very creative minds, and they're not expensive. I mean, I've got book trailers, 2 book trailers. I didn't pay that much money for, and they're so professional. They're incredible. They're on YouTube. If you see them, they're fantastic. And I didn't pay that much money for it. You
We'll
know,
have to hit you up for some tips.
I'm an author. I do a lot of PR. I mean, just this interview will be on probably 25 different sites, including Spotify, Pandora, Google Music, everywhere. So you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck, which is free. I never get paid anything, man. But I'm like you. I love the music, and that's why I do this.
I
You
mean,
know?
that so that fits our budget.
Yeah.
Like, frankly,
See, you can be funny. I just want to mention the videos. One video that comes to mind that got huge, and it didn't cost very much. And I talked to the guitar player of this band, who's also an attorney now. Is Blind Melon, right? No Rain. Look at all the attention No Rain got from that video,
no, it's an incredible song with an
right?
incredible singer too. I was just listening to that the other day, a live version that popped up on Instagram, and
Right.
it's like, oh my God, this, it's probably a nostalgia thing too.
Yeah.
We've talked about this. Like, it is part of my childhood and everything, but I hear that voice and it's just so
I know.
distinct and unique, and it's
Yeah.
like it just hurts in a way, but in a good way. It's like hearing Perry Farrell or something like that. It's like, you couldn't help but be you, could you?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
were Shannon Hoon and you sing that fucking song and it's incredible.
But the video matched the song. It was
Yep.
very creative. It wasn't a bunch of guys just playing music. It was, the little girl in the bee costume.
Yeah. No,
And
that I remember that. Yeah, that was a great video.
how many people became that bee for Halloween? They still
I
do.
I think my dog is that bee most Halloweens.
Oh man, I just wanted to mention too your debut release. It was an EP, Shine. That's the one that took it off. A lot of people really liked that EP, and then you came back with a second with an album, a full-fledged album with Nowhere Safe. So you guys are doing pretty darn good for not doing much.
We're cranking them out.
You are cranking him out, and I really like that EP as well, man. I love it. Blurred and Bent. I heard some Nirvana in that. Also in By a Thread, very grunge. Um, Say Never, very different sounding track, and that song I think showed how diverse the band can be.
So say never sounds very different, and I'll tell you why. That's an example of a Jason song,
Okay.
and he's it's kind of funny that they're both similar things, but I guess it just shows that, like, what the choices that you make in music are just kind of like, they show who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Jason, I already mentioned, he has a more modern guitar tone than me.
Right.
He
Right.
also has a more modern taste and writing style, I think. So when you hear in that, a little bit more, say, emo
Mm-hmm.
than alt rock,
Right.
that's one of the places that he's coming from. But yeah, definitely one of the catchier tunes on the EP. Blurred and Bent, that was actually the very first song that I wrote for this project, and just to kind of go back to, like, how it all came about and where we were at the beginning. The first thing that we tried to do was actually to bring his Breaths project to fruition, right? We wanted to create Breaths live,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
he had his album out. Um, People were liking it. It was getting a fair amount of listens on Spotify and everything. And we're like,
Right.
well, this is too good. Like we can't not not play this live, right? So that was going to be the first thing that we did. And then, you know, like I mentioned, I have kind of more of an engineering approach to things, and
Right.
he's a little bit more artsy, and I think he goes a little bit more off of his gut and
Mm-hmm.
what his gut was telling him when we were in the practice space and trying to do
Mm-hmm.
the breast thing was, he didn't want to do it. He felt like it wasn't creative, it wasn't satisfying, it was just like work
Mm-hmm.
basically, and he wanted to go a different direction with it. So okay, let's write some songs and start a different band, and that band became Roseneath. um we were doing it with a live band at the time. It just became a little bit tough to get everybody together and really do it kind of the traditional way. But yeah, I remember around that time, I had written maybe a song or two, and I wasn't really, I wasn't sure that I wanted to start my own band
Mm-hmm.
because frankly, like that's where I had come from. Um, when I was doing Cosmonaut, I was the singer, I was the guitarist, I was writing almost all of the riffs. It was basically my thing. And I remember the feeling of showing up to practice and, you know, people hoping for some new stuff. And you just have these feelings like if you show up to practice without a new song or a new riff, or say, what if it's not good? Like all that stuff started coming back to me. And I remember kind of yelling at him and everyone in the room. I was like, I'm not starting a band. You're starting a band. Go write some songs, you know? Because I write one, I write two. Oh, here comes number three. And I'm just like, this is actually not what we said we were going to do. We were going to do Breaths Live as the first thing. But, you wanted to start this other band. So go write some songs. Um, I'm not really feeling that way about it so much anymore because it's easy
Mm-hmm.
to just kind of, think of something
Yeah.
and put it down. So he's not going to get any more speeches from
Right.
me on that. But yeah, at the time, I guess I was just feeling very much like, you know, I didn't want the pressure to be on me and I wanted it to be a team
Right.
effort.
Sure.
Um, and so, yeah, he wrote on that one. He wrote, what was the other one? Chasing Ghosts.
Chasing Ghosts,
That
which is a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
title.
So
Yeah.
when you hear in that
Yeah.
more kind of, it's more of an alt metal thing, right? Like
Right.
it almost sounds like Helmet or something.
Right.
And not that I don't love Helmet. I mean, I do. Like back in the day, I loved Helmet, but it's just not my writing style. So yeah, when you hear that emo, you hear the alt metal and things like that. Those are more where Jason's coming from.
Say Never could have been I think could have been like a top 40 tune.
Oh,
It's
it's very catchy. It's
yeah,
very
very
catchy.
catchy. I
Yeah.
like it a lot. All right, here's something. Are you guys going to ever get out there and do a little touring, or are you going to stay like a studio thing, like a Steely Dan did, in the beginning?
Well, I told you the original idea was to get a live band together and do breaths, and then the
Right.
next idea was to do a real band and do it as Roseneath.
Okay.
It kind of fell apart because we couldn't really get everybody in a room reliably, and I think you know it's just a little bit frustrating. Like
Mm-hmm.
the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, and not really the best part for me, or maybe for him. I don't want to speak for what he likes in a band, but I like the writing and hearing it back part. Um, but I think that we will. It's just not it's not the immediately pressing thing.
Okay.
Like, I want to take it on the road. I want to promote the album. Uh, I want people to hear it, and frankly, I think it would be fun. Like, the main thing, here's the thing that I found a little bit upsetting about when we decided to not be a traditional band and do it
Mm-hmm.
more as a recording project is
Right.
like the thing that I enjoyed the most about it at the time was just being in the room with the guys. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to, I liked going to practice. I
Yeah.
liked, drinking a beer and playing some music and talking some shit.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really cool people that we
Right.
were working with, and I was having, you know, it sounds really pathetic to say, but I was like having visions of like going
Mm-hmm.
and playing a show at some dive bar where fucking no one is there, and just hanging out with them, and having some beers and talking some shit, and going and playing the show for no one. It sounded really fun, but yeah, it didn't end up working out like that, and now we have it as a recording project. And
Right.
like, I think that if we get it to a point where I hear it and other people hear it, and it's something that we have to go out and play for people, like, we definitely will. I mean, there is no shortage of amazing musicians in the Richmond area that we could pull from and put something together. And that's how I always did it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, my bands before, like, so I'm saying I'm doing all this electronic stuff, right?
Right.
I I have never used Logic in my life before we started this project, and so that's been a real learning curve for me, and that's
Sure.
actually one of the things that's really exciting about it for me, is that,
Mm-hmm.
I get to explore in a space where I've never been.
Mm-hmm.
The way that I've always done it is the old-fashioned way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you get in a room
Mm-hmm.
with dudes, you hash it out, and then you bring it to the people, and
Right.
you basically you hone your craft in front of people, right? And when we recorded, we would go in and we would find a decent studio that we could afford, right? The best one I've been in is Electrical Audio, where Steve Albini records, but it was always to tape. It was always a live take. Um, Vocals separate, but
Mm-hmm.
everything else, you just go in, you bang it out, one take, 3, 4 takes at most, and it is what it is. And if you're not a good band, well, sorry about your luck.
Right.
And if you didn't write a good song, I mean, it is what it is. There is no edit, and then the mix is basically faders up. So, and I know Jason's got a lot of experience too, doing it that way. So it would not be a very tough thing to do to get people together and do a live band and get out there and really deliver it for people. I think the only thing that gives me pause about that is that I do know the difference between, skilled musicians that get in a room and do it to like a B plus A minus kind of
Mm-hmm.
level, and what it sounds like when a group of people who've been doing this together for
Right.
years like really lock in.
Yeah.
Um, and so, what I don't know is, do if and when we do it, do we bring people in from our past
Yeah.
that are like that, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, let's just say, I mean, I'm assuming that Jason has people in his life that are like
Sure.
this. But if I get in a room with my old bass player and my old drummer, we probably couldn't fall apart if we tried, right? Like, you would have to hit me with a bus
Yeah.
to get me out of the pocket. But the problem is more like geographical than it is anything else. Like, I'm
Well,
down in Richmond. They're up in
how far?
Michigan. Jason's people are in Texas. So
Right. How far away is Jason from you?
about an hour.
Oh, what are you complaining about, man? I
No,
get
I just
guys.
mean if you're like, hey, I've got this great drummer, he's up in Michigan. Like I've got a fantastic bass player, he's 14 hours away. It's
I interview a lot of, big time prog bands from all over the world. I just had, have you heard of Big Big Train? Those guys are
now.
separated all over the world, man, and they've come up with some great material. So, you guys are only an hour away.
Yeah, no, I could for
You
sure
can
I
make it
could get
work.
in a room. For sure I could get in a room with Jason. Um, it's just a matter of who else is there and how quickly can you put it
Yeah,
together.
but even if these guys are far away, you can still do things over, the internet and MP3 and, I mean, that's how things are done today anyway, That's
Yeah.
it really is. And you like that kind of stuff. You're the kind of an engineer, electronic guy.
Yeah.
So you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Not only that, you guys are in Richmond, man. If you start doing live shows, you're in the happening place. You got Richmond, DC, Baltimore, everything's close. There's so many venues around, for you guys to play. Boy, if
Yeah,
I was your manager, man, I'd be cracking the whip.
there's definitely a band or two up in DC that you know, that I'm a fan of. Like
Hmm.
there are bands up there that I really like that have contacted us and said,
Yeah,
let us
open up for
know
them. Yeah,
when you guys are ready to play some shows
sure.
and you
Exactly.
come up and play with us. And it's like, I mean, that sounds great, and I take it as like a really nice gesture that they offer that.
Right.
But it's also I mean, it's not necessarily enough to get us up off of our asses because we don't have a manager cracking the whip. So on one hand, I want to do it and I think it would be fun. On the other, it's just, it's a thing to do, right? Like you have to figure it out. Who's it gonna be? Where are you gonna
Right.
practice? Get it together, get a set list and go do it. So
Are you gonna
I think the answer is yes. I
are you gonna
just
get
don't know
famous
when.
kick are you gonna get famous kicking and screaming? Is that what's gonna happen?
Well,
All of a sudden over
let me counter the question with another question. Is getting famous the goal?
it's is it? What do you want to, it doesn't sound like you care about that at this point.
I want to create something great, and I trust that
Well,
if I do, that people will hear it.
then
And
you'll get famous.
if I
Yeah.
hear it and I know that it's that,
Well,
yeah, I'm gonna start kicking the door down
all
myself
right.
to make
Could
sure
be the
that they
next
do.
album. You
I mean,
yeah.
maybe it's a pile of shit. I don't know because I mean, like I said, I've got songs.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for vocals. Um, typically, when I get them back, they're incredible. But I don't know until I know. So let's see. Let's see what the next batch of songs
Well,
bring.
Brian, all I got to tell you, if you look at my resume and see how many bands that I've interviewed, all the legends, I've written books, you name all the classic rock guys from the 70s, and I've interviewed many, and you guys caught my attention. So I'm telling you, man, that's a positive thing,
Oh, I appreciate that.
you know? So you're on the right track, okay?
It's a long track. This
Well, it's
is
a matter, do you go for it?
it's a
and
cross country highway.
and then, you got to admit you're older. You're not your 18, 19-year olds. You don't care about anything. You just want to be a rock band. You got families, you got careers, you got a lot. There's a lot going on. So it's different, So I understand where you're coming from, man. I've got kids, I've got grandkids, I know where you're coming from. All right, here's your final question. Okay. I ask all the big boys this question. I get some very interesting answers. If you had a Field of Dreams wish, like the movie, to perform, collaborate with anyone from the past or present, who would that be?
Collaborate. Ooh,
Sing, I mean, play with, play guitar, sing with, write with.
I mean,
Who comes to
you
mind?
think long, you think wrong, right? And so,
That's
but
true.
the answer that I'm coming up with is really, I'm not satisfied with it. I'll just tell you what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I have a favorite drummer,
Okay.
and it's Matt Chamberlain,
Mm-hmm.
who is, you'll think it's funny, right? But the first time I ever heard him, and I didn't even know it at the time, but it was Edie Brickell and the New Bohemians.
Yeah.
You remember that song, What I Am
Oh
is
yeah, I
What I
like that
Am?
song. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So um I didn't hear him as an incredible drummer at the time. I heard the song and it was catchy and it was whatever. But he went on to do he was drumming for Tori Amos. He was
Mm-hmm.
drumming for Fiona Apple. If they caught his interest enough, he would go and tour around. Maybe he toured with, like, for sure Tori Amos. He might have toured with
Right.
Fiona Apple as well, but mainly a studio drummer. But just the guy's his feel, his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is that I'm hearing when I hear him play drums, but it sounds incredible and it just sounds right. Like the space that he puts between notes, how he hits his drums. Um, I mean, clearly it's not perfect, because
Mm-hmm.
if you hear perfect
Right.
and you hear electronic drums, you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
that's not necessarily good.
Right.
It's perfect, but that's not what your ear wants
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, unless it's like, electronic music. Um, but yeah, just incredible drummer, and
Hmm.
I think, that's my pick. But the
Okay.
thing that I don't love about it is that it's not generally with a drummer, and this is the thing that I didn't love about drums, it's a little bit less creative and it's a little bit more workmanlike.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a skill. It's like being a sculptor or a
Right.
carpenter or something like that. Like you can be very good, and yes, it's artistic. You're an artist. Um, you play the drums, but yeah, gosh, if I think I'd be a lot more satisfied with my answer if it was someone that I was collaborating with,
Mm-hmm.
in more of a melodic way. Um, that I actually have a different answer as far as like producers go. I mean,
Right.
dream production would be having Dave Sardi record us and Ken Andrews mix us. I think that would get the best sound. It's not
Mm-hmm.
practical or affordable, but yeah, once again, that's not a person that I'd be collaborating with on a song or a melody. It's just someone to help me make my stuff
Yep.
sound great. I guess the next place that my mind goes is probably Tom York, because I when I listen to Radiohead, just like anybody else, I'm hearing it all,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he's alive.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't say Kurt Cobain. So um I'm hearing melody. I'm hearing like just something that comes from the heart, honesty. I'm hearing interesting instrumentation, production, and he has sort of a reputation for being uncompromising,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, okay, you're in this band. Um, Here's a song. Come up with something
Yeah.
that adds to the song if you want to play.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, well, I
Yep.
guess you just stand there. So yeah, from a creative standpoint, yes, I would have to go with him.
Okay. Do you want me to get? I've interviewed. There's a book that. This is a good book, by the way. I don't know if you read this or not. Serving the Servant, Remembering Kurt Cobain. It's Danny Goldberg, their manager, Nirvana's manager. I interviewed him. Good guy. You want me to reach out to him and see if he'll manage you guys?
Let me put it to you this way, Ray. We'll take all the help we can get.
Yeah. You've done a lot. You've done a lot so far with what you've got.
I told you my approach, and I told you what the budget is. So,
hey, man, you make some good money. Don't give me that. You know, and Jason said he was in the corporate world too, wasn't he? Is he in the corporate world?
Yeah, he's got a job.
Yeah, you guys, you know how unusual that is. You know, bands starting out, they eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They all live in. I've heard some stories you won't believe. You know, like the whole band is sleeping in one bed in a hotel room. You know, actually that was the Commodores.
we do what we've got to do to survive. You know,
yeah.
I've been living the backup plan for a while now. So, yeah. I mean, it is what it is, right? But yeah, well, you know some people that are interested that hear something when they listen to our music and want to help out. You let me know.
Well, you got one guy right here that likes your music, so use your resources. You know, I'll do anything I can to help you guys, and this is step one. You know, you got somebody promoting you at your budget.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you for talking to me. I really enjoyed it.
I want to mention pre-order the brand new album by Roseneath, which is Nowhere Safe. I guess they can go to Bandcamp, roseneath.bandcamp.com to pre-order the album. Is that the best place, I guess?
Yeah.
Yep. And if you want more information about the band, you can go to Bandcamp, roseneath.bandcamp.com. You guys are on Instagram. And I think that's about it, isn't it? You don't have a website.
That's about it.
You know how tough it is on guys like me? You know, because I got to do all the research for you guys. And oh, man. You still there? Okay, I guess we just lost him. Anyway, oh, you're back. Okay, I thought I lost you there for a minute.
For a second.
You froze up for a second.
Yeah.
Actually, that looked like a good cover for an album because you was like, yeah. Brian, thank you, man, for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. Give my best to Jason if you talk to him, and the best to his wife. I hope she continues to get better. That's a shame she had a, battle with this, dreaded pandemic for as long as she has. It's a shame, especially when she got vaccinated. You wouldn't think that would happen.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man, and the best of luck to you. You guys got my email. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. As soon as this is published, I will send you all the links. So if you want to post it somewhere, okay?
Perfect.
All right, man. Take it easy. Thanks a lot again. All right.
Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.